Hello everyone, welcome to the GTA on Hyperworks Post and Automation. My name is Sandesh Gandhi, PM for Plotting and Reporting. Alongside me, I have Mikhail Stefuka, who is PM for Automation and Customization. Now, to start with, our today's agenda is going to be, of course, to talk about post-processing in 2022 release, which will cover Hypermesh Post and Matrix Browser, also the updates on Hyperworks Post, which includes Hyperview, Hypergraph, and Report. Then after that, we'll jump into your demo. I'll show you through all the new functionalities that we have brought up. Then we'll go to the automation updates in 2022, where command recording has come a long way, and it has covered so nicely in Hyperview, Hypergraph, and of course on the framework level as well in reporting. And then finally, we'll go over the question and answers. Now, first and foremost, a big thank to our development and QA teams for the amazing coordination that they have shown over this entire release. It was a big team effort to come to a release of this kind, which is full of features and very useful use cases for all our users. Now let's start with Hyperworks post processing. In Hypermesh Post, which now we have been talking for a couple of releases, in 2022 release, we have updated our post preferences. We have harmonized it to match with exactly where rest of the Hyperworks is. The user experience has been upgraded, and of course there are some sanity checks we have added in order to keep the file association. So you'll see mainly when you are trying to use results query or matrix browser settings or preferences, you'll be directed to a common preferences dialog where you can also edit rest of the application preferences. So there is now a central place for all sorts of settings and preferences. On top of that, when you try to save HM files where you had already loaded results on the screen, you'll see how the file association is being maintained. We'll go over this during the demo today. Apart from that, we have also released our official ANSYS and Abacus support. That mainly goes towards, of course, the implicit workflows. It was mainly about removing that beta flag because it has been under tests for a few months now. But we have added a lot of bug fixes on top, and now it is perfectly ready for everyone to make use of. And finally, we'll go over the matrix browser updates as well. They have upgraded with some results query recording as well. So regarding results query recording, you'll see now there is a new logic established to for data name types. You can see the selection ordering, and of course, in line with our first point today, the post preferences. Even the settings in matrix browser are now accessible from the central preferences dialog. So without further ado, let's actually jump to our demo. Now on my screen, I have one of the favorite models from my aerospace friends. It's an airplane wing, actually a box from it, and this is in the OptiStruct profile. Here I had only loaded the model so far. Now what I'm going to do, first go to the post profile or post ribbon and add a result file. So I'll go to my demo where it talks about all the OP2 files. I can select all of them, load them. Once they are loaded, of course, the results browser also shows up. If I expand all of it, you'll see all the subcases and load steps loaded right here. I can also go ahead and create a result. So if I create displacement, all the settings are already there, so I don't have to worry about it much. I'll quickly select the displacement and hit the plot, and everything is looking fine. So this part we have already seen. In addition, you must have also tried this functionality where you create some deformation, which is based on displacement. And if you decide to plot this, of course, by default, it takes a scaling factor. All I have to do is go to the property area, set it to the appropriate level, and now it's looking perfectly fine to me. Now this part we are all aware of. What you can do while you're doing all of this is, if I was trying Matrix browser or if I was trying any of the result query tools, uh, in this entire story, while all these results are loaded, if I wanted to change any settings, if I click the settings dialog, now it is taking me directly to the central preference dialog. I can change if I wanted to change any precisions, or if from matrix browser perspective, if I wanted to change the numeric format and all those things, I can hit the cancel if I don't want to. Now, if I'm coming back and if I have added some settings on the screen, for example, let's say that I have, well, uh, let's just try to enable something here like this. I'll try to save this file, and here I'm going to call it aerobox GTLM. Once I save this, I'll close this application. And if I go to the folder where I just stored it and perhaps try to change some file names, or let's just assume that this load case got removed from here. And now if I try to open this file in a session, I will see on the screen a message that a particular file is missing. And that is very important message. Now I can either go ahead and load this file as it is, or I can go back to the folder and see what really happened to that OP2. In this case, I can go ahead and either save this as a log file or go ahead and just load it and then go back to the post profile. And in fact, before creating any new definitions, add the same post processing file. Now, again, we can easily add it and then overwrite this HM file as a new file. So that's mostly about how the file association is working and how even the new post preferences are going to help you. Similar thing from Matrix browser. If I was in Matrix browser again, if I hit the settings, it is going to take you to the same results query tool. Like I said, it's right there in the central location. So along with rest of the application settings, you can change all of this in one central spot. Now let's move on to our next topic, which was about the Abacus and ANSYS profile support. So I switched the model to an Abacus standard 3D model where I have some parts and instances shown on the screen. You can quickly see if I go to the parts browser, there is Bolt's example, which is using the parts and instance concept. I go to this results browser and it shows me all of this is actually already loaded. So if this is already loaded, I have the displacement and stress definition created. I can quickly go ahead and load the displacements. Like you see, the displacements are already plotted. I can see that the legend is now helping me go over this. If I don't like this legend, I can always change it to a non-divergent legend where well, the colors are going from red to blue in a different pattern altogether. I can also go over to the stress loads. Now in this case, all I have to do is, first of all, well, if I go to this screen, if I try to select stress as my definition and hit plot, well, okay, something is off with my definition. So what I'm going to do is simply add a new definition, select stress, select this again. Everything is good. Well, now it comes up. So if I have the stress properly loaded, all I can quickly do is label it as I like. Now, one of the nice things that you can quickly notice here, you can quickly change the resolved in system from global to elemental or material. These couple of systems are already supported. The ply-based system is in process to be supported very soon. So as soon as it is ready, you will get access to it as well. And along with that, lot of goodies in the ply material or ply system area. Now, from this, let's move on to our next example where we talk about ANSYS load case. In general, you'll see that now because we have all these results accessible in Hyper Mesh, we have the model data and results database all under the same roof. That means I can always go back and say if I wanted to show any particular load steps, so I can quickly go and see that, okay, this is the load case I wanted to show, and this is how the result is looking like. Actually, in this case, I should be showing the pressures because we are in the pressure increment. So, well, that's how the post-processing in Abacus has come along. Now let's look at the ANSYS profile in HyperWorks. This is one of the popular models, of course, the bullet. Here again, let's look at the results part. I have already gone ahead and loaded the RST file. If I load the results, the bullet model RST, there is only a single step here. I have also created the displacement definition, so I'll go ahead and plot that. If I want to change it to non-divergent contour settings or the legend settings, I'll go ahead and do that as well. Like you can see that the displacement is already there. I can quickly also enable some other contours like stress data. Now, one of the nicest things, again in HyperMesh, that we recently saw that if I have access to the model data, why not even the thickness? And this is one of the nicest things that you can quickly see. So first, what I'll do is try to visualize my thickness, then go to the stress and enable the plot. Now you can see that I can go through the results with the thickness enabled. This is one of the nicest use cases that that our users were looking forward to, and now it is there in the service. Now that being said, of course, no matter which solver profile you are in, you have access to more data. So I can always go back to the matrix browser and request some HM data, go for some properties and request more results data right there, and do more justice to what we are looking at the screen. That's definitely there. The matrix updates about result query. Of course, I know Mikhail is going to cover that in his automation demo, so I'll leave it to him. Let's actually now move on to our presentation. So if I say, so we just saw that post preferences are now updated. They are harmonized. They are in the central location. We just saw that ANSYS and Abacus profiles are officially supported without any beta flag this time. And matrix browser, there is of course a new results query that Mikhail is going to demo. Now let's move on to our HyperWorks post site where we have some updates from Hyperview, Hypergraph, and report. First of all, let's go over Hyperview updates. There are definitely some improvements there from usability perspective. So if you go over the measure or notes or section cuts workflow in general, you'll see that now you can do lot many actions on the screen while you select the entity. So for example, you can copy the notes, or you can simply select a measure on the screen and double click and hit the edit button there to edit it right away, right there. And then there is a cylindrical spherical system support for measurements as well. In case of Hypergraph, we have actually gone ahead and made sure that Hypergraph is available to other applications inside Altair as well. So you'll quickly see that when you try the design exploration tool in 2022 in Inspire. The hypergraph there is available in the form of a chart manager. So all the XY data readers, chart entities, you'll see all of that getting there. Of course, that comes with a backend Python support. So there is definitely a spoiler there that there is something to look forward to for our ESG and all the customization folks. In case of report, which is itself an automation, we have added another layer of automation on top. Now we have started recording the report generation as you start developing your report template. That means we have added the HWC command recording capability to the report as well. This has been being added. I mean, we have been adding it since 21.2, but now is the time where you can accomplish very useful use cases during this 2022 release. So I'm sure Mikhail is also going to go over it. I leave it to him. Now, before we conclude this session, let me quickly jump back and talk about some Hyper-V stuff. So just to reiterate over some usability features that have been updated. So if you were in the idle mode, now you can see already that measures nodes are some of the common things that you can easily see as selectable entities. I could select nodes, click them. You also see that it's highlighted in the browser, so it's very easy to understand what's going on the screen. You can right click. You could either edit it right here. You could copy this node. If I say copy, it creates a copy right next to it. And then I can drag it around and then probably change if I wanted to change a few things by simply double clicking on it, or I could have right clicked and say edit node. So there are all these goodies already there. Same thing now happens for measures as well. So as I can see on the screen, I have 3 measures. Although it's not, I mean, it's not practical to, copy the measure right next to it. But if I double click on it, I can quickly edit a measure and do any changes or modifications that I'm looking for. So if I wanted to change the ID visibility, for example, all such things are quickly possible uh, if you have selected the entity. And of course, if you're clicking the measures, it's going to stay inconsistent with it is going to stay consistent with the entities that you select in the browser. And so does the table that we talk about. So if I select any entity here, it's going to be highlighted in the screen. So it becomes very easy to interact, go back and forth between various measures or as many measures as you have on the screen. Now, that being said, let's get back to our presentation and summarize the post-processing content so far. So we saw so far, we have new harmonized preferences in HyperMesh Post. You can access the model data and results under the same database. So looking at the results through the thickness or accessing the load case while you're looking at the result, all of that is possible under the same roof, of course. We have now supporting officially Abacus and ANSYS solver profiles. Hyper-V has improved some of the usability features in nodes, measures, and section cuts. And eventually, we have powered the automation in Hypergraph, Hyperview, and Report with the new HWC content. Now, that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Mikal from here, who is going to talk about automation and customization.
Thank you very much, Sandesh. Hello to everyone from me as well. So yeah, on behalf of the automation customization team, and namely Stefan Eberhard, the man behind the HWC layer from the PM side, I will walk you through the updates and new features in the command recording and playback. Let's get started. Very quick recap and overview of 2021 cycle. So in 2021, we reached a really good coverage in Hyperview and made some initial steps towards the coverage of Hypergraph M framework. Okay, as you can see on this slide, on this and the next one, we're using a little tag next to the product name, telling you a bit of a guidance on the coverage, right? How far we are with covering individual features and functionalities in the HWC layer. So from 2021, then in .1, we moved forward with Hyperview and introduced isoplots and tracing, and then Hypergraph made further little steps in terms of curve manipulation and advanced curve selection. At the end of the 2021 cycle saw the export functionality being supported in Hyperview. Hypergraph made even bigger steps there. So we supported line charts, the well-known stack math operations, nodes, datums, that's all been supported from that version. And as you can see at the bottom, report phase 1 was introduced. So we did initially introduce, the creation of reports through HWC layer. Now, what is coming in the 2022 release? So you can look forward to new features in Hyperview and a coverage of 80%. Namely, we will be seeing hotspots, DB query, which is a bit of a mix between TCL and HWC, We'll do a quick demo on that. And measure curves are now fully covered as well. On the hypergraph side, we have reached 40% of coverage in 2022. And you will see how you can create a curve, how the functionality from the right-click menu, context menu, edit and stack math have been combined, and this has been reflected in HWC and is fully supported and recorded. Last but not least, also the context nodes and datums are recorded in HWC. And from the framework side, as Sandesh already mentioned, we are now supporting editing of entities in the reporting tool, right? So the phase 2 has now reached the release stage. So from 2022 onwards, you can create your report structures and you can also edit those entities. So what I'll do now, I'll go over each product separately on the slides, then move to the demo. Right, so Hyperview 2022 from the HWC or command recording and playback perspective. So I mentioned Hotspot Finder. So under the command keyword KPI, key performance indicator, and hotspot, you will find all the functionalities. The project was split into 2 phases. In the first one, we supported the rules and review, and then in the second one, preferences and export. Both made it successfully into the 2022 release, so you can fully control the hotspot tool through command and recording. Measure curves. So measures have been supported, but now you can very easily, literally through one line of code, move from your measure in your, let's say, Hyperview window into a curve in your hypergraph window. Okay. Again, in terms of the commands, annotation, measure, curve, and then you can follow up with a couple of additional arguments. But this is what you need to remember. And thanks to the IntelliSense that the team has implemented, if you remember this, you'll be fine in a live session, and you can code the rest directly there. 2 things to mention here: the selection of your measures can be done in 2 different ways. Either you can refer to your measures through IDs, or you can directly call them by their name. And actually, the name of the measure itself is available in the IntelliSense. So as you're typing the command, the IntelliSense will offer you the measure item. Well, and the last item on this slide is the database query. And we strongly believe that this will be a huge hit. If you are familiar with the MVP toolbar, which is a legendary set of customization tool coming from Stefan, you know that it offered a set of very powerful, efficient commands that let you skip the usual, sort of hierarchy of handles that you need to follow when you're scripting in TCL in our post clients, such as Hyperview, Hypergraph. And thanks to a new package that has been now offered in the release, you can, as you can see on this slide here, you can very efficiently compress your code. And thanks to the HWP namespace set of commands, as we call them here, HWP standing for HyperWorks Post, you can go straight to certain handles or get certain information. I'll show you a bit more details once I jump out of PowerPoint, and we will have a look at the demo. Also, as I mentioned 2 slides ago, it's a bit of a mix between TCL and HWC, how we work with this package. The HWP toolkit introduced HV_get HWC mark command, and that allows you to transfer the content of your HWC mark into your TCL script. So maybe just to highlight this at this moment, all the lines of code that you work with in the command recording and playback, you can use in your TCL script as well. All you need to do is put the keyword HWC in front of it, and you can execute all these directly in a TCL script. That means that the TCL layer gives you the extra intelligence in terms of loops, variables, etc. But with the HWC itself, you get that extreme efficiency and speed of coding. And so hence the mix of those 2. And for that reason, it is often beneficial to be able to move the information from one layer to the other, so to speak. So when you're defining a selection, a mark in your HWC layer, you can extract it through the new command and work with, let's say, a list of IDs directly in your TCL script. It comes with intelligent defaults. So if you, for example, are, you can see directly on this line. So I'm getting a window handle, but I don't have to specify the page. I don't have to explicitly say that I want the active window handle. It's all there. That's the assumption, right? If you want to define those specifics, you can, but the defaults are there for you to save you time. And last but not least, robust and easy to use thanks to the garbage collection. Okay, if I rerun this set window line code once again, I would not get an error regarding, you know, a handle being already defined. So the garbage collection is there. I can rerun those lines. I don't have to worry about it. So huge progresses on the Hyperview side, and yeah, big benefits for scripters on the post-processing. And as a highlight, takeaway from this slide, please remember KPI hotspot, annotation, measure curve, and if you want to use the new package require post query, and then all those commands will be available under the HWP namespace. Okay. Let me move to Hypergraph. In Hypergraph 2022, the HWC layer, the team has introduced four main improvements, let's say. You can split them into 4 categories. So let's take it from left to right. Starting with math core functionalities. I did mention on the earlier slide that the edit curve and the stack math options were merged into a single item in the context menu. So yeah, the workflows are more streamlined from the user perspective, and this has been reflected in the recoding as well. Okay. Command remember, XY curve, stack add. This is how we will call and recode those functionalities. The note and date has been introduced in Hypergraph. So really Hypergraph is getting the proper Unity new framework experience. And yeah, the context coverage has been now done in HWC as well. Again, to highlight the commands that we need for these: XY, date and vertical, for example, create, or XY node create. Okay, so all these you'll see nicely there. Third point on this slide is curve creation. So again, unifying the whole experience across HyperWorks clients. If you want to create a curve, you can right-click in the browser, go create curve in the context menu. Again, perfectly recorded, very straightforward kind of a command naming, XY curve and create. All curves, as you can see, can be edited in a very efficient way. I'll try to demo how you can specify ranges. And again, those ranges come with a very efficient logic, how you can simply grab curves from an active window or all curves from certain window. And last but not least, plot window support. So a new plot entity has been introduced, allowing you to efficiently provide and perform operations on multiple entities. So this plot entity is available in the mark, so you can create a mark of type plot. Okay, and again allows you to very easily and efficiently create curves, nodes, and datums on a whole plot, right? So in a specific place in your session, so to speak. So again, just to highlight the takeaways from this slide and the commands that have been introduced in version 2022, XY curve stack add, XY date and vertical node, XY curve create, and XY mark type plot. And again, thanks to the really powerful IntelliSense that Stefan and the team have developed and introduced, once you remember the first few lines, so to speak, first few keywords, then you will see all the options in the IntelliSense, and it will guide you through the creation. Right, and with the framework, I will conclude the PowerPoint section and then very quickly move to few lightweight demos. So in framework 2022, so to speak, we are now supporting report editing. Okay, as you can see on this slide, 2021.2 introduced the main sort of infrastructure. So users were able to create items for the report, and their creation had been recorded. And then in 2022, they will be able to edit those items. Okay, and as a highlight here on this slide, we can see the corresponding commands. So report create, report add, and report edit. That's the new keyword, new option here that we need to keep in mind. And yeah, take advantage of it from 2022 onwards. And with this, let me move from PowerPoint into a HyperWorks session and highlight a couple of these improvements. So very swiftly, Sandesh has mentioned Matrix browser. So let me start with that bit, and then I will be off to cover the HWC enhancements and new features. Right, Matrix browser, as you know, the new versions of HyperWorks, it is now available on the post ribbon, as Sandesh mentioned, Matrix. And really the nice highlight that I'm particularly happy about is minor cosmetic, improvement in terms of the GUI, but I believe it nicely enhances the usability, and that is the split frame, right? So I can reposition how much of my GUI I dedicate to the table and how much to the available items in the data names. If I want to change a couple of settings, I click on the settings button, so that one is still there, but as you can see, it guides you through the preferences dialog. So that's the common area that Sandesh highlighted, and it's all there available for you. The highlight of the recent work that has been done on the Matrix browser is the coupling with the results infrastructure. So let me quickly show you what this is about. So I can grab elements, I'll select a few elements, okay, and request some data names. Again, if I want to have a better look at what is available, I can expand this area, scroll down, grab the results. Standard at the moment. We are playing some improvements here and hoping to introduce options like envelope, min-max ranking, and these sort of things. Let's query. Now what I can do is grab maybe Mrs. option. Let's go with max. And now if I don't click OK, click apply, it will populate the data. Dialog stays on the screen, which lets me select maybe some other types of data. If I want to go with stress, let's go shear XY, max, and this time I will click OK to confirm and close the dialog. All right, so you've got the results here, and what is now officially supported in version 2022 is the macro recording. So I can now save this. Let's go into demo. Okay. And if I run the demo from scratch, you'll be greeted with a dialog that you might be familiar with. We are replicating the workflows that were available with Matrix and Hyperview combo. Now we're merging everything into the Hypermesh Post workflows. So here I can quickly select a couple of elements. And because I've got multiple subcases, I can select all of them up and click OK. And that's it. I've got now my set of results that I asked for misses and shear for all three subcases in one table and with all the namings in the label at the top. Okay, so that's been very briefly Matrix 2022 for you. And now let me do the honors and introduce you to the new functionalities in HWC layer. We'll start with hotspots. Okay, so I've got the session loaded already, a subframe model with contour, thinking which because we should actually look at, we can go with strain energy as an example, okay? And pick hotspot, okay? As soon as I click on the hamburger icon, I can see some commands being recorded. Let's go to preferences and change unknown precision. Okay, we can click apply, right? Already recorded. Search criteria, if I change it to 3, something, click find hotspots, I can see the hotspots there. Everything is recorded, including the change number of hotspots. Okay, so all is nicely populated, line by line, beautifully recorded. Click review, populate the hotspot data. Again, simple command, review. So in literally 4 lines, we can see the hotspot data in the export folder. We specify extremely powerful, no handling of handles, right? And yeah, in a few lines of code, you've got your sort of report basis. Now, as a more advanced demo, Stefan and the team have prepared this script, hotspot search. Let me zoom in and then run it for you. So here, and this will be part of the package that you can download after the GTA session. What I want to highlight here is the usage of the post query package, okay? HWP get simulation list. Again, I can go straight to the point. I don't have to go through handles and the hierarchy. I need my list of simulations. That's what I get. I create my hotspot definition through KPI hotspot creation, and then define few criteria. And all we're doing afterwards is looping through the simulation. Okay. You can see at the very bottom, we've got the review, and we've got also the export. Yeah. So if I move this away now and launch it from scratch, HV hotspot demo, and what I will show you at the same time is all the data populated there. Okay, so let's load the session. And again, everything gets recorded. So what you are running through your TCL file with the HWC command in front of your commands, you will then get recorded, can review, and everything will be nicely populated in the export. And just to highlight again, the efficiency of the code, a reasonably complex script that generates a hotspot screenshot and a CSV file with all the hotspot details takes 35 lines of code. So absolutely beautiful and super efficient. Right, I think I've got a couple of more minutes, so let's use them efficiently. Let me go into a measure curve session and show you the improvements on that front and how you can, again, very easily in one single line populate a hypergraph window with your measure curve. Right, in this session, we have already few measures defined. Let's have a look in the list. So we've got element, stress from Mises across the time domain, which is okay. So for example, let's say I want to grab these 2 curves and I want to generate a plot from them. So let's do it interactively to start with. We don't have an existing window, so I will go with a new window and I will send these curves over. And that's it. One single line specifying that annotation measure curve. I'm working with the measure curves 5 and 7, and y-axis is the value. And that's it. The rest is taken care of the command itself in terms of the intelligent defaults. As you can see, I don't have to specify which page, which active window. It knows there's nothing to work with at the moment. So all I need to know is which curves you want to work with, and they are thrown on the screen. So really saves the user a ton of time, and it's really nicely designed by Stefan and the team. If you wanted to create a measure from scratch, of course, that's supported as well. So due to the time, I will conclude the demo with this action. Okay, so let's go to my window. Here we are. Let me close this one and let me just create new measure, and let's say element contour, And let's grab something from here. Okay, boom, I've got a new measure group. Everything is defined there. And I should see in the list. I can see here, perfect. And let's try to replicate. So let's say I want to put this in a new window, right? So annotation, perfect IntelliSense gives me what I need to up. That's just my typing, excuse that. Annotation, and then measure. And what we need to do to grab a measure curve, right? Up. And now which measure? Those, right? And I can grab it by the name, as I mentioned during the slides. So let's go with this one. Up, double click, and yeah, boom, and it's there. Okay, so single line of code that I didn't even have to worry about the exact syntax, right? The IntelliSense was just laying things down nicely in front of me. One click, and I've got what I need. I can grab these lines, save them as a file, and replicate them, rerun them, or simply move them into a TCL file by logging it into a TCL. So yeah, it's really beautiful to work with. I'm a big fan of this, and with that, I think we're back to the PowerPoint session.
Hello, my name is Stefan Eberhardt, and I show you additional automation demos for HyperWorks 2022. So I start with database query. So here we introduced quick solutions for Hyperview. So if you, for the highly most asked for commands, this is something like, for example, if you want to get a subcase list or if you want to loop over a component list, we support the most needed Hyperview query commands. There is no overlapping with HWC. And I also want to quickly demo the HV get HWC mark command, which allows you to get access in TCL about queries, marks you created in HWC. So let's go to the command, the thing, and I load the Hyperview demo. And when I load it here, this, you see here, I have a subcase list, and for this different subcases, the requests list. I want to get this subcase list with a in TCL. I go to TCL. I already loaded my package require and post query. And when I fire up here the command HW get subcase list type by name, I get it. I get the subcase list by name. If I delete it, I get the subcase list by ID. If I want to HWP get simulation list, I get the full simulation list here. And if I want to, of the active subcase, and I want to get it here, for example, for another subcase, I can get also subcase ID, and I have 201 here I currently, and I get the 500 simulations for subcase 201. And when I want to get a component list, I get the full list. And if I want, for example, this list by name, get the list of all if I want to loop over it. So I want to see this, show you this one full in action. So when we have here this script, the database query, here you see I just load the model, etc. But then I have all these HWP commands, which is get subcase list by name, because I use then the subcase in labeling and creating PNGs and H3Ds. And images. Then I get here the component list, you know, also by name, and the simulation list, also of my dedicated subcase. And when I get this one, I loop here over the component list that it doesn't run so long. I limit it to the first 6 components, and then I loop over the simulations of the given subcase. And here I create images, PNGs, and H3Ds of each simulation. When I file this up, this script, we'll see here. And in addition, to make it visible, I set here the deformed. I show here deformed for eigenmode values and with a high value so that you see the deformation. And I also change to wireframe that you will see that the wireframe of the undeformed shape. So this were all these recorded are, you see, this were all with HWC recorded as it is, and then packaged into the loops with lists getting by the HW with this new command. So I ran the script. This is database query. So the model is newly loaded, and then you will see it gets contoured via HWC. Then I loop over the first 6 components. It's zoomed in, and then I go over them, and then I capture the image and the wireframe. Okay, let's have a quick look. So this one is in the export, and this is what's currently created. I get here the images per, and I get here, for example, the PNG of mode 11, as you have seen, and the H3D. Yeah. So perfect. Okay. So that was a database query. I move on to the next. Also, for the database query, part of it was to have quicker access to the handles of the entities in HyperWorks Post. So here we have quick access to these handles by the HWP commands. With the intelligence default means that, for example, if you say get window, you get immediately the handle to the active page and the active window, you know, so that you can say, okay, that you get the window of page 2 or window 1 when this one is active, or you can directly say minus page minus window and get this the handle to this window, or you want to get contour control of the active model, etc. And what's very important, you have also garbage collection. So you see here, if I fire up the same command twice, it will be not, it doesn't cause an error or so. So if I have here clear, I said, okay, I say here on HWP, I said here, I start with get component. And I said, when I say get component, it will ask me, okay, mandatory option is at least you need to provide the ID, minus ID. And I say minus ID is to 574, was it? Yeah. And I get the part, the pointer to this component. And when I want to get here, for example, the contour control handle of this model, then I can quickly, and I can get it twice. it's garbage control, so you no need to ever release a handle when you use these tools. Then very quick, if you want to navigate in a session, let's load this hypergraph session. So here I want to give me the get window, for example. This gives me the active window on the active page. If I make it here and ask the same window, you will see switch pages and you will get always the active one. If I want to get a dedicated one, I can say minus page minus window 3, and I got what was minus page 3 window 3, and I get the pointer to the window 3 on page 3. So very flexible tools. Most entities are supported: page, windows, models, components, curves, axis, nodes, whatever. So in Hyperview and Hypergraph, we have nearly complete coverage using these tools. So in HWC in 2022 drove the math harmonization. So as Mikhail already mentioned in his demonstration, edit curve and stack math had merged, and stack math moved to being a context. That means now you can, before in the edit, for example, it was a context or is a context, and you can move the vertical slider bars to, for example, define your trim range. Now you can do this also in stack math. And no matter if you use edit or stack math, it is the same formula and the same HWC command, and the user doesn't have to take, have to consider any special here. And also in the documentation, it is mentioned how you can use these customized slider bars here in your macro. So that's a very powerful feature. So I will quickly demo this one. Let's just go to HWC and clear and load the regional session. So I want to select one page. I want to do a trim operation. So I go to add stack math. And now here you see, I see the trimming and I see the slider bars. Before I haven't trimmed, they go to the start and the end of the curve. And now I can move, or I can type in the GUI, and you will see here, and I say, okay, and you will see I can do it here in stack math, like you were in a context, or you are in a context now, and I say, okay. And you see it's recorded in exactly the same like in edit. So if I fire this up again, I reload my session and I go here and I copy this command, for example, to TCL to show how easy it is to go from one to the other. I throw it in and say, okay, I want to do it not only for this page window and curve index. No, I want to do it for all, for example. And then you can see it's done here via TCL for all with the same for all page curves in all the plots and windows for the whole session. So very powerful functionality here. So context, we support now contexts. So node and datum contexts. So to be unity conform here, whatever you do, when you change properties, you create curves or change properties via micro dialogues in a context, it will be recorded, and you can use these commands to execute them. This operation again. So I quickly back to my original. So let's have here a clear. And then you see I create a datum line. The datum line is recorded, or I create a node, attach this node to the minimum, for example, of this. Now I edit, click And you see it's recorded, and I can simply reuse the commands. Everything what I do here is now recorded and can be reused. So curve creation, it's also a big step forward. Now we are consistent with all the others. So we have the create curve in the browser, like in Hyperview or Hypermesh if you create entities. And we record all these curve properties. So first we create, and then when we edit, when we define the curve, and we do it here, for example, via the entity editor, we see all these options recorded. The good thing is we can use all these commands in one line, and then which makes customization much simpler. And when here it's done on one curve which I created, when I modify the range syntax, I can create them, for example, for the whole session or for a range of pages and windows. Very simple here, for example, for the whole session. I want to quickly do this one. Okay, I create the curve. I go here to page 1 and say create. See, the curve is created. Now, if I want to modify the curve, I have to go there and say, okay, this curve has my new label, like resultant. And then I go there and change the color, etc., to the properties I like. And then, of course, I would need to define here some kind of properties, math, and change here the expression, c1.x. And here's where I can define my curve. I delete this one here and create a new one, this predefined command. And then you see I got the resultant with exactly all my properties, line style, line color, line thickness, which I defined. And again, I can do it in HWC or can do it in Tickle. I can copy to TCL if I want and fire the same command up again. And here I say also do it again, colon all. And you will see I get the resultant edit for all the pages and windows for the whole session. So very powerful functionality. In addition, to make this even more powerful, the plot window support was added. And so here we will have the entity of type plot. So far we had entities of like curve, nodes, curve, nodes, datums, axis, legends. Now we have the plot itself. And with this one, we can reduce complex scripts to a few lines of code. So this allows us, for example, to create a mark of type plot property dependent. Here I said, create a mark with a name header mark, and it should contain all the plots which have the header head in it. And then I say, with this header mark, add a resultant curve. Here you see, add a resultant curve on this one. And then I say, I create another mark 2. And with this mark 2, add a header lower torso, all the plots in letter toe, and change the background color, which was done here. So here I want to show you interactively how this goes. Let's go quickly and HWC clear. Okay, when I want to create this mark, go to HWC and say here y mark 8 type plot. Now I say mark, and I say here header mark. And when I have this header mark, I say what I want, which property. I say header. And this one is the header is here head. So now this mark should contain all. And then I want to fire up a command which creates a curve. Copy this one here, which uses this header mark and creates this curve exactly in all the plots creates the resultant with these properties. When I fire this one up, you will see he found on page 1 the plot window, the second one, which have the header head. If I go through the session, here it was head was on plot window 1, page 2, and here I have it on the second window on the third page. So very powerful stuff. Now I want to show you a little script which I use here. Here I will load the session again and bring a message, but if you look here, it says in TCL create a header mark 2, and here I use the range look on the first 2 pages and look for everything which has the header lower torso. Then look at the same range on the first 2 pages for upper torso and add this creates, and this one adds the plots to the mark. And then I use this one to edit the plot itself, change the background color, grid line transparency, and grid line color and the publishing format. So far, all the plots have, if I load a session, you know, all the plots have the publishing format PNG. And now let's run the script. This will load, create an edit mark. Here comes the message, what will be done. And then you will see it found lower and upper torso with the headers. It found these 2 plots on the first page. It changed the grid line color to yellow, etc. Changed them. On the second page, it found upper torso and changed the properties accordingly. And on the third page, there is even one with lower torso, but nothing changed. And this is clearly explained. Why? Because we only want to look in this range in the first 2 pages and not in the whole session. So you can combine this search for a really very dedicated search to do exactly the mass operation you want to do. Now, the last thing I want to demo is the report entity support. Here in the past, in 2021.2, we supported the report structure commands like create, add, move, copy, etc. And in 2022, we now have the editing. So when I fire up the script, you will see that I create a new report. So a session will be loaded. I start a new report and I add report entities. And then even when they are added automatically, I really will change the properties, change the output type, etc. You will see. Go here and say report, create and edit. You will see I load the session, the report will be opened, HW report, and then you will see the chapter. It will be created automatically and then relabeled. The property will be changed accordingly. And you have seen it here in real time how this will be created. So a very powerful tool. So if you have already created a report, now you can modify the entities later. This concludes my additional recording of the customization functionalities, additional demos of the customization functionalities in HyperWork 2022. I thank you for your attention and wish you a great day. Thanks.